A new push by Democrats to block the building of President Trump's billion-dollar White House ballroom after Republicans added the ballroom's security costs to a spending bill restoring funding for immigration enforcement, with the plan to jam it through with reconciliation and no Democratic votes. On Thursday, a top House Democrat moved to send the bill back to committee and amend it, prohibiting any taxpayer funding from going toward Trump's ballroom.
This Republican agenda can somehow find money for Donald Trump's ballroom and his billionaire donors, but it can never seem to find a dime to lower costs for the American people. Americans have been loud and clear. They want costs to go down, and they want it now. They do not want their taxpayer dollars spent on a ballroom so this president can host lavish events with his billionaire friends.
And we've got that guy right now, the lawmaker who introduced that measure, Pennsylvania Congressman Brendan Boyle. He is the ranking member of the House Budget Committee and serves on the Ways and Means Committees as well. Congressman, welcome to you. So what does this billion-dollar ballroom say about the GOP's spending priorities, and how confident are you the Democrats' efforts to block it will succeed?
Well, good to be with you. This past week has actually been the most clear-cut illustration of Donald Trump's priorities, as well as those Republicans who enable him in Congress. The president has said repeatedly, out loud, that he just doesn't care and doesn't think at all about the financial condition of the American people. And he has also made clear one of his top priorities, if not his single top priority right now, is the construction of this billion-dollar ballroom. Literally on the plane coming back from China, one of the first things he mentioned was that Xi Jinping, who is dictator for life in China, has his own ballroom, and therefore the president wants it as well. So it's no wonder that we are seeing costs skyrocketing, because the reality is we have a president who just doesn't care.
Listen, it's not just that. As you know, the price tag for the president's renovation of the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool, that has climbed now to $13.1 million. That is more than 7 times the cost that he originally touted as part of a no-bid contract. By law, no-bid contracts are only awarded when a delay may cause serious injury to the government. And Interior Secretary Doug Burgum told Congress 19 fountains didn't work, as an example of a record amount of deferred maintenance requiring immediate action. So if the administration won't justify the cost of this project, can Democrats force oversight over it?
Well, you know, it's interesting. Right now, from both private conversations as well as public media accounts, I do think there are some House Republicans who are wavering. They know just how toxic it is at a time when costs are out of control. Consumer confidence is literally at the lowest level ever recorded by a poll that dates back to 1952. To then turn around and spend $1 billion of taxpayer money on a ballroom is just completely politically tone deaf. Now, up until this point, in the year and a half or so that Donald Trump has been back in the White House, the examples of congressional Republicans standing up to him are few and far between. But here we are increasingly getting closer to November, in which most polls are showing that we Democrats will win back the House. So I do think there are half a dozen to a dozen House Republicans who may be wavering on whether or not to actually accede to the president's demands.
So President Trump this week proposed suspending the federal gas tax as the Iran war drives up the price of a gallon to a national average of $4.52 today. You're calling for Trump to support a bill that you introduced last month, pausing the tax whenever the national average rises above $4 per gallon. How about that one? Is there enough support from both parties to pass this into law? And how much relief at the pump could this give drivers?
Yeah, well, first, let's just be clear. The reason why we are in this situation is the president's completely irrational and erratic decision to suddenly launch this war on Iran. Let's not forget that 2.5 months ago, on March 1st, we saw gas prices nationally an average of $2.98 a gallon. We now see them north of $4.50 a gallon. So that's an increase of more than 50%. And it's, again, entirely because of the president's policies. Now, I proposed last month, as a way to help, a suspension of the federal gas tax. The federal gas tax is only 18 8.4 cents per gallon. So this would not take care of the $1.50 plus increase per gallon, but it would help. It's about a 10 or a 15% help to families who are really struggling to make ends meet right now. But I would point out there's a second part of my bill that the president has not announced his support for yet. And that is, the revenue that is raised through this federal gas tax, it 100% goes to the National Highway Trust Fund in order to make sure that those repairs, those critical repairs to our roads and bridges are met. The president's proposal doesn't say anything about making up the gap in the Highway Trust Fund. My proposal does. It says a full suspension of any and all subsidies going to these oil and gas companies that the president gave them last summer in his so-called big, beautiful bill.
One last quick question for you. President Trump reportedly expected to drop his $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS in exchange for a proposed $1.7 billion taxpayer-funded compensation program. This for allies who claimed they were targeted by the Biden administration. The agreement could compensate January 6 defendants and Trump-linked entities, Congressman. So what's your reaction to that?
The idea that even one criminal insurrectionist would get even a dime of taxpayer money is absolutely sickening, and it should sicken all Americans. The people who should be compensated for January 6th are the more than 140 United States Capitol police officers who were savagely attacked and beaten by these criminals.
Congressman Brendan Boyle, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
In our next hour, what you may have missed from Howard Lutnick's testimony about Jeffrey Epstein. Congressman Robert Garcia, ranking chair of the House Oversight Committee, fills us in ahead.